I'm Jennifer, I'm the Executive Director. We've got Natalie Foster, who's our Director of Programs and Partnerships, Vanessa Reyes, who is Director of AmeriCorps Programs, and Sarah Wilkinson, who is our Programs Manager. And then we have our trainers and consultants, Dwayne Bennett, Rameka Blakey, John Harris, Stephanie Hunter, Laura Leparati, Tammy Mobley, Bianca Myrick, Tiffany Patton, and Allison Roberts, and they help us with all of our training and technical assistance. So a little bit about technical assistance. We have a no-cost program consultation. I know many of you have taken advantage of this great service that we're able to provide, but we have limited hours left this year, and this is kind of a good news, bad news thing. This is the funding received for this is through a national pot, basically, passed down from OJJDP through NMRC to our Mentor National office and then through us. Because other affiliates are also receiving this funding, there are a lot of people looking for technical assistance. And so now right now during this cycle, we have some limited funds. So what we are recommending is that if you would like to have technical assistance, if you'd like to have consultation, that you apply for it now. And if you have any questions about that or would like to learn a little bit more about that, you can contact Sarah Wilkinson, who manages that program. And now we are going to hear from, like I said, one of our expert coaches, Rameka Blakey, who is going to present to us on the topic of recruiting mentors from populations that might be, that we may have had challenges recruiting from. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Rameka. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Rameka, and let you share.
All right, thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm excited to spend the next about 18 minutes or so presenting information on our topic today, which is building pipelines for targeted mentor recruitment. And so if I could just get this screen up. Sorry, bear with me. All right. Unfortunately, I'm not able to just show only my screen. Are you all able to see just my screen? No? Okay, so we're going to start like this. I apologize. So again, I'm excited to be here to talk to you today about building pipelines for targeted mentor recruitment and to give you a little bit of information about myself. I have more than 25 years of experience in the mentoring field. I've been a former director and program manager of various youth mentoring, leadership, and academic enrichment programs in Rhode Island, Connecticut, DC, and Virginia. I'm a proud former big sister of Rhode Island, where I mentored 3 teen girls for more than 6 years in the early 2000s. I've been with Mentor Virginia as a training and technical assistance provider since 2019, and I have had many awesome clients who I've helped to build their program or to create programs, and some of them are on the coffee hour today, which is great. I've also been a workshop presenter at Mentor's 2020 National Mentoring Summit. And in a nutshell, I'm a lifelong fierce advocate of youth success and quality programming. So our 2 main goals of today's community coffee hour are to build your understanding of what specific mentor populations need you to know before you recruit them, and to inspire you to strengthen your targeted mentor strategies by implementing evidence-based practices. So top questions that we'll consider today are, what is a targeted mentor recruitment pipeline? What messaging should programs use to persuade and build trust with their targeted mentor audience? What are common mistakes that programs make when trying to recruit targeted mentor populations? And is your program prepared to target a specific mentor recruitment pipeline? And then how do you know? So I'm going to pause right here and see if I can only show my screen once again. Nope, I can't. All right, so to continue on, we'll define what a mentor recruitment pipeline is. So it's a pool of qualified people who are interested in learning about mentoring opportunities at your program. So programs, quote unquote, pipeline candidates because their skills, experiences, and traits match a particular youth need. And typically these candidates will meet the requirements of your formal mentor job description, have communicated with someone from your team, perhaps the primary recruiter, or someone who is a board member, or another mentor or mentee or parent. It could be anyone who is speaking to this person on behalf of the agency and hopes to inspire them to mentor. The candidates have expressed favorable views of your organization and agreed to receive notifications from you. So yet giving you another indication that they're interested in your program and possibly mentoring, have passed an initial phone or in-person screening, not quite an interview, but whomever has spoken to them has passed their criteria for being a great fit for your program. And they're kept warm through regular contact with you, meaning that they have been pursued by you or someone else through emails or through newsletters or at different points in your program where you feel their involvement should be made. And these candidates are who you want to target. Okay, so what is a targeted mentor recruitment pipeline? So it's a pipeline that focuses on particular attributes of potential mentor candidates. It offers some assurance that your program will reach its recruitment goals by being intentional about who gets recruited in the first place. What does research say about targeted recruitment pipelines? The key to targeted recruitment is to tailor how mentoring is presented to the particular groups you approach. So there's no research that directly supports one targeted mentor recruitment approach over another for all programs. So if we look at 10 common mentor recruitment mistakes, we have not educating oneself around best practices for the populations that you wish to target, not strategically using mentors and mentees to tell their stories and assist with relationship building, not community asset mapping or identifying strengths and assets in your local community or even in the surrounding communities. Not understanding that mentor recruitment is a team-wide effort that takes place 24/7. So even though there might be one primary recruitment person, the research shows that everyone who is a part of your program staff can play and should play a key role in mentoring. In recruiting, not creating and then utilizing a clear annual recruitment plan. Not seeing their recruitment plan as a living document to be revisited weekly, not making a personal follow-up connection with each new recruitment prospect more than once, sometimes 2, 3, or 4 times, depending on the relationship. Not having weekly staff meetings to discuss the current state of recruitment efforts. Not understanding that recruitment efforts and activities are what drive all other program operations. It's one of the most important aspects of a mentoring program's very existence. And then finally, this one is personal to me, but not being passionate, excited, motivated, and on fire to recruit, and not recognizing that our youth's lives depend on our passion and motivation to affect change through recruiting. So for me, just to speak very briefly on this, the research shows that the personality, the motivation, the style of recruitment all plays a key role. And so if you find that you might be having a difficult time recruiting and are no longer excited about it, you have to really be mindful of how that gets translated to your audience. You want them to see that you are excited and passionate so that they can believe you've got something great, to offer them and they can get excited too. The good news is that the following slides will present meaningful considerations for how to target specific mentoring populations to help enhance your mentor recruitment efforts. So we're going to start with our first target population, Black men. So according to the Guide to Recruiting Black Men as Mentors for Black Boys, April 2014, created by the United Way of Greater Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey, which is the regional affiliate of Mentor in that state since 1989, their research has shown before engaging in a recruitment and outreach campaign for Black men to serve as mentors for Black boys, it is important for your organization or program to reconsider its mentoring approach. It is important to assess its readiness to dive deep into the issues that impact this group and assess whether what it is prepared to offer fits the needs and addresses the realities Black boys and men face. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Bear with me, folks. I apologize. It suddenly started to work. Okay, so there are 5 program attributes essential to Black male work. Number 1, engage Black male work with a race and gender lens, recognizing that Black males see themselves as both Black and male at the same time. 2, acknowledge the injustice of unequal race and gender outcomes surrounding Black males. These injustices are not commensurate with a fair and just society. Seek to address the injustice of race and gender disparities. So seek to close the gaps between the success of young Black males and their peers. 4, employ targeted strategies. So Black males' work must be targeted to have a positive impact on them specifically. And use a race and gender metric to evaluate success. So evaluative tools must be explicit in determining the relative success rate of Black males within a particular program. So essentially, before even beginning to recruit, the idea is to look at these different strategies and determine how they're being employed in your program. And once you're in a position to speak on them in a way that is appealing or shows Black men that you are knowledgeable and aware and sensitive to their experiences, they will likely want to buy into your program model and get started with you. The next target population are people of color. So the integrative model of developmental competencies in minority children notes that issues at the intersection of social class, culture, ethnicity, and race matter for the development of minority children and must not be omitted from youth development conceptual models, especially in mentoring programs. Gender and age dynamics further complicate these developmental models that are often not considered in conceptual frameworks when they should be. Social positions such as race, class, ethnicity, gender, and social stratification, meaning racism, prejudice, discrimination, oppression, segregation, environmental factors, schooling, neighborhood, etc., are considerations that must be at the core of conceptual models and not at the margins. So for people of color, when recruiting them, this research is basically saying to consider all of these different dynamics, and apply them to the particular person of color who you're talking to, recognizing that these are some of the realities of their experience, their lived experience. The next population is the LGBTQ community. So the LGBTQ supplement to the elements of effective practice findings indicate that a business as usual approach to mentor recruitment may expose LGBTQ youth to additional risks and cause long-term harm at a time when these young people are most in need of care, advocacy, and having someone in their corner. So the strategies that the supplement offers are to have a written mentor job description that is inclusive of knowledge, skills, and abilities associated with being an ally or advocate to LGBTQ youth, as well as noting that the program is committed to serving these youth and enforcing non-discrimination laws and policies. Also, program engages in volunteer outreach to LGBTQ community groups, including corporate affinity groups, community centers, and places of faith. Programs engage in targeted outreach to LGBTQ adults who may bring valued lived experience to the mentoring role when matched with LGBTQ youth. And then programs use inclusive and welcoming language for mentors on their website, in marketing brochures, and in other marketing materials. Our next population is foster youth. So according to the National Mentoring Resource Center, population review on foster youth, when undertaking mentoring youth in foster care, adequate staffing resources, access to clinical expertise, and knowledge of and collaboration with foster care systems are critical. And so these are the strategies that the National Mentoring Resource Center offers. Work with clinicians, social workers, and others that have deep experience in meeting the needs of foster youth to design and develop your recruitment activities and augment relational mentoring experiences with skills training, therapeutic practices, or other clinically informed interventions that can be more holistic, that can more holistically support the needs of foster youth. To recruit adults who recognize the importance of consistency, not only in terms of meeting frequency, but also in terms of how they carry themselves, demonstrate dependability, and build trust in the mentee. And this part of the research also says that consistency is critical because foster youth are oftentimes moved from one home to the next, or to a group home, or to another placement, and they need for that mentor to be consistent, or to understand they need to be there throughout those changes. 3, recruit adults who offer genuine, caring, warmth, and opportunities for fun. 3/4 of all foster youth have many other adults invasively in their lives due to their status, but a mentor can be a place of fun, unconditional support, and relaxation. Finally, recruit mentors who wish to promote youth empowerment, self-determination, and goal setting around educational and post-emancipation dreams. So this may be an especially important approach as young people reach the end of their time in the foster care system by strengthening their goal attainment skills and empowering them to exercise agency over the next steps in their lives. Our next target population is immigrant youth. So according to Mentoring Immigrant Youth, a toolkit for program coordinators, which acts as a supplement to mentors how to build a successful mentoring program using the elements, working with children from immigrant and refugee families requires a great deal of empathy and care. Many young people transitioning to this country may be dealing with loss of their homeland, their family, or friends. Young immigrants may also be brushing up against the loss of an ideal, realizing that life in the United States is far different from what they expected. Because of these important needs, programs are strongly recommended to explore ways to create program climates that are welcoming, responsive, and inclusive, starting with the mentors they recruit. Here are some strategies. Partner with local immigrant and refugee relief agencies and literacy organizations, many of which are faith-based, to recruit individuals already volunteering with these populations to secure mentors with experience working with this population. One of them is one of my clients, Women of Connections Ministry, who provides an awesome experience for immigrant and refugee young people. Partner with after-school and youth service agencies to strengthen the informal mentoring relationships that immigrant youth are already forming with program staff and volunteers there. Host a series of community forums featuring current mentoring relationships involving immigrant youth, and then recruit college students to be mentors to younger children. Many universities and colleges have service learning requirements that focus on working with immigrant youth. Finally, rural communities. According to a webinar series hosted by the National Mentoring Resource Center called Rural Mentoring, Leveraging Community Assets and Creating a Culture of Mentoring, Rural communities don't have a lot of marketing options or marketing dollars. Media access is limited when only a very few media outlets exist. Word of mouth is one of the most beneficial communication tools in rural settings, and integrating your organization into the community is the best way to join the grapevine. So invest in your own visibility by creating a community integration plan. And so here are some recommendations. Establish a culture of everyone recruits all the time, even if you already have a recruitment marketing staff person. Set recruitment goals. So encourage staff to commit to a set number of contacts and speaking engagements each month. Require board members to submit one name of one potential mentor at each board meeting. Read your weekly newspaper for happenings and goings on in the community, and send staff, mentors, and board members there as participants. Talk with your newspaper to implement a quote unquote mentoring matters promotion piece monthly, with weekly mentoring articles in January for National Mentoring Month and in April for National Volunteer Appreciation Month. And then set up an advisory council consisting of parents, mentors, mentees, and referral sources to assist with recruitment issues, strengthen the program, and offer advice and feedback. So in sum, what have we learned? One, we must align our mentor recruitment strategies with the specific needs of each target population to increase our chances of securing the right mentors and avoiding common mistakes. Specific mentoring populations want to know that we see them and we hear them through our mentoring approach. 3, targeted mentor recruitment is trial and error and takes time. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to quality recruitment, especially when it's targeted mentor recruitment. And then lastly, successful mentor recruitment is predicated on passionate, knowledgeable, strategic, and prepared program leaders who recognize the power of relationship building. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I know it was certainly a lot, but I hope that it was helpful. I would love to take questions if you have any. Probably we just have time for 1 or 2, but I'd be happy to.
And Rameka, while everyone is kind of thinking of some questions, we're going to put up a quick poll too to gauge where our group is with looking for mentors, what target population. So if you could take the poll real quick, that would be great. Looks like we just have a few more folks here. Okay, and the results are there. 50% of the folks on this call here are targeting male mentors of color, recruiting right now. And then the second was other mentors of color. So I wanted to give the audience a chance to ask a few questions. And
Sure, I'm happy to answer.
Good morning. My name is Dolores Perry, and we mentor girls 9 to 18. Will we get a copy of your slides?
Absolutely. You can most certainly have a copy. If that's
Thank
okay
you.
with Sarah and Jennifer, absolutely. I know that there was lots of information in there, so I certainly would not want you to miss any of it. And there were actually tons of other related supplements that we just did not have time to talk about or share, but I'd be very happy to share those too for many of those specific populations that I discussed.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
while we're waiting for some questions, we had some folks submit questions with the registration. So I'll go ahead and ask one. How do you build a successful mentor recruitment strategy in a rural community with a small population? I know that you touched on that a little bit, but I think you've worked with clients actually in that, region. So what else can you offer, Rameka?
Yeah, so the relationship building piece is critical. Lots of rural communities have people who know each other well, and that can be both a good thing and a bad thing. I've found in what some of the research says, but making connections with people, especially in the local school department that serve the youth, is one way that has proven helpful. One of the research articles that I read mentioned that their students lived about an hour and a half away from the mentoring program and away from most mentors. And the challenge was transporting the students to the mentoring events or to their mentors. The staff of that mentoring program were able to partner with the local school department to talk about the services that they offer and why the youth in their community need them. And they were able to come up with a transportation plan where one of the school bus routes was changed to accommodate the locations where those children lived. And they were willing to provide bus transportation throughout the course of the school year, including during breaks and the summertime, to make sure those students were serviced. So they said, we just happened to know someone in the school department who knew someone in the transportation department. But they said, even if we didn't know, we would have still reached out because we knew our students needed the services. And that was just a really great outcome that happened. But, play up on the relationships that you have, make relationships and keep them, and know that it will take time. And again, there's no one size fits all. So it's going to be lots of trial and error until you find something that works and then can duplicate that, or multiple things that work and can duplicate those things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Decker, and I work with Catholic Charities Diocese of Arlington with the MyVA mentoring program. We work with refugee and immigrant clients ages 15 through 24. Rameka, thanks very much for that presentation. That was really great. I was wondering if you had any tips about selling prospective mentors on the mentoring relationship in this COVID environment that we're in, because I think a lot of prospective mentors, they have that kind of like big brothers big sisters image of like kid and mentor walking hand in hand to like a playground or a library, and right now with the environment that we're in, that's not necessarily feasible. So I'm wondering if you had any tips or tricks about just like recruiting mentors in this pandemic situation that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. My first thought is to don't let COVID and the virtual setting stop you from articulating what your youth need. So their needs should be at the forefront still of how you approach your program model. And the e-mentoring space has many advantages, and it is not fully a set of disadvantages. But I would definitely speak again to just what those students need. The fact that there are going to be those times and spaces in the future where connections can be made, but that there are also, plenty of activities that can be done virtually to connect. There are fun games that can be played. There's still the consistency of having someone show up regularly who you can look at and talk to and connect with. There's, still homework that can be discussed and looked at online. There's still connections with other youth and other adults, within the program to help build and empower the young people. So, I would, again, appeal to mentors who you're trying to recruit by foremost talking about the needs that that your youth have. And, if it is a targeted mentor, pipeline, I would make sure to employ all of those strategies that fit that particular target audience, but talk about why their participation is so helpful, despite the fact that they won't be able to make impact in person. The research shows that impact can be made for sure virtually, and it is relevant and it's meaningful. Just don't let the virtual world stop you.
And thank you so much, Rameka. I think we have time for one more question. I see it in the chat box there. It says, Rameka, thank you so much for that amazing presentation. What are ways that you see that mentoring programs, though they may claim, though they may claim they are recruiting mentors of color, are actually centering white mentors in their recruiting process? Basically, what should we avoid doing in recruiting?
Sure. So my first thought is that Blacks and whites should be informed about the same information that impacts recruiting Black men of color or people of color. There are Black males and females and students and youth of color in general who don't necessarily want mentors who look like them. I've worked with many of them when I was operating programs in DC, where the youth said, I want a mentor who is not my color, or who is not from where I'm from. I want a new and enriching experience because I already know what this world is all about. But the key really is to make sure that your mentors are educated and they are aware and they are passionate around the issues. Your mentees are who you should be going to determine what they want. Each mentee is different. So whereas your program might say, we want for every one of our mentees to have a mentor, which is great, your mentees are going to tell you what kind of mentors they want. So, at one of the mentoring programs that I ran, we had a screening checklist for the mentees, that gave them the opportunity to select the threshold of want with different demographic criteria. So, one of the statements was, a person of color, very much, not so much, not at all, and we use the feedback from those youths to determine who we needed to target. So if we had a young person who was a Black student or a Latino student saying, I don't want a Black or Latino mentor, then we listened to that. And we matched according to what they said they wanted. So everything in this business is about relationship building, but it's centered around what each one of your individual youth want, and not just what research might say overall. You've got to tailor your experiences to what you know to be true for your youth recruitment population. So I would say, yes, you can certainly only target Black, or people of color for people of color youth. But research doesn't say that that's the only way to create positive impact. And that's actually not true of what every, person of color who is a youth actually need or want.
Rameka, thank you so much for that take.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're going to get ready to go to some breakout rooms. And I just wanted to preface with some of the things to think about when you get in that room. One is, and Jennifer's putting it in the chat box now, was there anything from the presentation that you will be able to use to help your program with targeted recruitment? And then secondly, thinking about what are your current recruitment goals and barriers to reaching those goals? So we'll take about 10 minutes. And we're all coming back together here. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to see if one person from each group wanted to share out. I know in our group we were building relationships for sure. helping out with that recruitment?
I can go if that's all right.
Great. Thank you, Dolores.
Thank you. Thank you. I like Rameka mentioned what role will you play. That was our marketing theme when we started 11 years ago. And the relationship building process is one of which is paramount to the match. We started out as a one-to-one mentoring program and then had to transition into the group sessions. And we do the group sessions twice a month now, and opposed to once a month group. But because of the fact that COVID, we transitioned to the group once again. We're pivoted to the e-mentoring, which is great. And it's well received and we get more engagement. So we're great for that. We're really appreciative for that. And thanks for the specific recommendations, Rameka.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
And Rameka, we actually have one more question that came through.
Sure.
Is there any data about whether the racial identity of the staffer at the front of the mentoring program affects what kind of mentors are drawn to the program?
Yes, there is. There's not much of it out there, but there is. That same resource that I use to gather information about mentoring Black youth and recruiting Black men for youth, it was definitely determined that the race of the staff matters to Black men, and for people of color as well. There is research to say that it matters. There's, an inherent sense of connection, or understanding. Whether that's legitimate and true or not is another thing. But when someone sees someone who looks like them, they can easily feel connected or feel like they possibly have something in common, or that person might have a similar set of standards or values or life perspective that they have, even though it may not be true. But yes, there is research. We are just now, Mentor as an organization is just now in more recent years starting to focus their attention on race and equity issues within the mentoring world. And it was interesting to me to read research from, Mentor and other prominent organizations from the 1990s and the early 2000s about race relations and equity relations. And the information just wasn't specific, and it was glossed over, or it wasn't real and true to the experiences that we know are real and true of people of color and Black men in particular. Our more modern day current research is more accurate to the experiences that have always been there. So I just felt like that was really interesting, but good. So yes, the race of staff matters.
And one last thought here on using credible messenger to help recruit from specific populations.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. What's the question?
Sure. What are your thoughts on using a credible messenger to help recruit from specific populations?
Absolutely. Yes, if you all have credible people who know your program, know your mission, know your vision, they know your youth, they understand, the culture of your program, they understand the needs. If you trust them to speak eloquently about your program, send them out there. The idea is that you're keeping the youth at the forefront of everything that you do. So the more they're familiar with what your youth needs are, they can advocate, they can serve as allies, they can speak on them effortlessly. They have to know, what the issues are, so they can tell the story. They can build a relationship around those issues. If they don't know the issues, and if they're not passionate about those issues, don't send them out there. If they know and they, are connected to you, send them out there. As many people as you can. Build your ally network. Don't be afraid to do it. And if you find that, hey, you sent someone out and they didn't quite articulate exactly what you wanted or needed, it's a learning experience. You learn from it and can, tailor the dialogue or improve on your dialogue for next time, but keep doing it for sure.
And we have another question. One group ran out of time, but was interested in asking, how do you emphasize the needs of your mentees to potential mentors while avoiding deficit-based language when speaking about the youth in which you serve?
Sure. So, when I was responsible for recruiting students, specifically at 2 mentoring organizations in DC, the needs I knew were tremendous. They were multifaceted. They were heart-wrenching. I knew that, but I didn't make that the focus of my dialogue with the potential mentors at all. I spoke to the strengths of these youth, the beauty in them. I spoke to their interests, their hopes, and their dreams. And then here and there plugged into the fact that, they struggled with, with whatever it is that they struggled. I did not make that the forefront, and I don't recommend that you do either. Speak to all of the amazing things that make these youth incredible. And the more you're tapped into exactly who they are, what they need. I had the benefit of interviewing them. So, sitting with the youth for an hour, half hour, hour and a half, 20 youth a month, 10 youth a month, you can easily think of a person's, issues, but more so the joys and the strengths and the beauty behind them when you're meeting new people, that you can effortlessly talk about them to make an appeal. So I would absolutely not focus on what is wrong, focus on what is right. Then when you get them in your training at that session or those series of sessions to prepare them for their role, then you dive in to what the real issues are. But you don't want to scare people and turn them away. You want to make sure they're committed. So if they can articulate that no matter what, I am committed to my mentee or to my future mentee, that's who you want. So I would absolutely say to focus on the beauty of these young people, especially the youth who come from disadvantaged communities. They already get enough of people underestimating or highlighting what is wrong. Don't do that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'd like to at this time pass it over to Jennifer so she can do some resources and announcements.
All right.
Well, first, I want to thank you, Rameka, for bringing so much knowledge and experience to this topic. So I know I got some takeaways too for myself as we help others recruit for their agencies. So want to just go over a couple things, just some housekeeping and things like that. So I'm going to share my screen once more. We are excited to have this event this Sunday. This is our Day of Wellbeing. We're partnering with Bare Soul Yoga and Wellness. This event is a time for us to learn mindfulness techniques that we can bring to our organizations as well as our home life and things like that. There are 8 sessions, but you do not need to attend all 8 sessions. You can pick and choose which ones you would like to go to. I encourage you to click on the Learn More just to see what those sessions are and consider joining us on that day. I think it's going to be a cloudy day, so it'll be a nice day to kind of learn some new things from home. So that's one thing that we wanted to share with you. Secondly, we have mentoring working groups. These are groups of your peers. So these are groups for organizations that are similar in structure. So we have the school-based, we have community-based, and we have STEM-based working groups. We do have enrollment. So if you'd like to join any of those working groups, please go ahead and enroll for one of those. And again, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about those, I would reach out to either Sarah or me or Natalie, and we can give you a little bit more insight into that. And we do have May's Community Coffee Hour, and that's coming up on Wednesday, May 12th, but we do not have a topic yet. So I am going to launch a poll, I think. And what we'd love for you to do is to let us know what your thoughts are on what you'd like to see in May and June's community coffee hours. So give you just a couple of seconds there to get some votes in. And so your feedback will help us as we build those coffee hours.
Matters to you in your community. Expect news will return at the top of the hour.
Just a couple more seconds. All right. Go ahead and just share those results. So it looks like transitioning from e-mentoring to hybrid is a very popular request. And then for June, by a landslide, coaching mentors to have brave conversations with mentees. So thank you very much. And it looks like mentor recruitment is also going to be a topic for future community coffees. So thanks again for helping us out with that. And finally, let us know how we can improve these community coffees. You know, we started these at the beginning of the year. We haven't done that many, and we're still, you know, making sure that we're meeting your needs and meeting your requests and things like that. So if you could take our survey, I think you can click directly on that. Sarah, if I'm correct.
We'll be sending out the link, but I also just put it in the chat.
Okay, so it's in the chat. She'll send out the link, but if you could just be brutally honest and tell us how we're doing and what we could do to get better. And I think that is it for us today. So thank you very much for joining us, and have a great rest of your week. And we hope to see you at the May Community Coffee Hour. Bye, everyone.